Hey folks, I'm back here with another Data with Danny challenge, part of the 8-week series. We're on to case study 3, Foodie. This is a kind of Netflixy kind of business centered around food programs. The schema we're going to be working with doesn't look too tricky. We've just got these two tables to work with. So this plan table relates to my subscriptions via this plan ID. Knowing that one plan ID over here can appear multiple times in the subscriptions table. So nothing major here, but there will be some complicated SQL we're going to have to write. So as before, Danny's got you a interactive SQL code place where you can go and upload and start querying those tables. I've got this data all over on Snowflake, so I'm going to start tackling it there. Okay, so section A here, it's more of a just getting used to the data kind of question. So I'm being asked for 8 customers. What I want to do is start with that subscriptions table and do a select star from subscriptions. Select star from subscriptions, great place to start. I know there might be a few going on here, so I'm going to put a limit on this, limit 100, a few results. What I want to do is get an idea of those 8 customers. You could just keep working with a limit, but I can see here that customer 1 here has 2 rows in this data. So if I put limit 8, I'm not going to get 8 customers back. So what I'm going to do is add a where clause and just say, well, customer ID less than or equal to 8. 0 is the ones for the plan ID is not very helpful to me. So I want to get this idea of what the plans were, what they were, what the prices were. So for that, I'm going to need to join back to plans. To do that, I'm going to go back to my relationship diagram and remember, yeah, it's quite simple. I've just got to go and join to plans on this plan ID here. So this is going to be my key to join these two tables together. If I run that, I can see I'm getting all these different columns back. I don't need everything. I'm just going to limit this down to customer, the plans, the prices, and dates. Now I've got this data here, I can make some assumptions about the onboarding process. That all of the customers start with a trial. They go on for a trial for what looks to be about a week before going on to one of the plans, like a monthly plan, an annual plan. First question, how many customers has Foodify ever had? So if I go back to my schema diagram, which table is going to help me out here? It's going to be the subscriptions. This has details on the customer IDs, so I can use customer ID here to do a count on this table. So if I run this query, just a select star, limit 100, just to see the data. If I'm going to do a count of these customers, I've got to make sure it's a distinct count here. Otherwise, here in this case, I could be counting the same customer twice. So I'm going to do the count distinct to get the unique customer IDs out, so the unique count of customers. So I've run that, I've got 1,000 come back. I'm going to give this an alias as customers. Got 1,000 customers there. Okay, so what is the monthly distribution of trial plan start dates? So when do our customers start their trial? So what I'm going to do here is lean on some of the date functions called date trunk, which will be able to convert my dates into months. As before, I'm going to start off with just select star from subscriptions with a limit. I'm going to take this start date and then I'm going to do my date trunk. The date trunk, I say what part I want, then I want the date. So I want it converted to the first day of the month. Okay, so you can see that there on line 2 here, where we were the 8th of August, now we're the 1st of August. So this has converted all those dates to a month. Now, I just want it for the trial plan, so I'm going to need to filter this for the plan ID is 0. Now I need to find the distribution. So what they want me to do is do an aggregation on this, count the number of customers for each of those months. So yeah, I'm just going to go and count my customers by the month. Okay, so if I'm doing an aggregation here like a count, it's going to give me, and I don't put anything else in here, it's going to give me this error of start date is not a valid group by expression. It's complaining about what do you want me to do with this thing. So in this case, what we need to do is go and put it in a group by to tell SQL we want to group. If I go and put that in a group by, that works. You can see this coming through now. So we've got these different months and we've got the count of those customers when their trial started. For this question, what it's after is a look at all those different plan names and a count of all the different events that happened after 2020. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to work out my plan names. I'm going to filter the data for after 2020 and then do a count of those events. Okay, so let's start up with subscriptions and go from there. Okay, for the year 2020, I'm going to take my start date. I'm going to do a date part on it to identify the year, and I'm going to set that year to be greater than or equal to 2020. So I can test this here. So if I wanted to say do a date part, what I can do here is pick my date time expression. This could be the month, the day, but I'm going to do the year. So you can see here, start date here has now been converted to a year here as a number. So this is coming back as a numerical value. Okay, this is great. I can take this value or take this column and put it into a where clause to use it as a filter. Okay, and you can see that filter working. You can see 21 is there, not 2020 anymore. Got the plan ID here. I'm going to need to go and do that join to plans to get the plan name. Verify that in my little schema diagram here. So I'm going to go from on my plan ID to plans. Okay, and if I scroll across, yes, I've got those other columns coming in. Just need to go and bring that plan name into this. For my plan name, I don't need my year anymore. I've got that already accounted for. Okay. So what I want to do now is find a count of the events. So just do a count of the rest of the rows in this table. So if I do a count star, and as I'm doing an aggregation here, I'm going to need to add my plan name into a group by statement. So here we go. So this tells me a list of all the different events that happened in 2021 and onwards. Hey, question 4. What is the count of customers and the percentage of customers that have churned rounded to one decimal place? So this leans on what we started with, so that distinct count of customers. So we're going to use that. But now we've also got to work out how many customers have churned as well. I know from question 1 what my count of customers is, so I can bring that in. So I know that's 1,000 customers. But now how am I going to find these ones that have churned? For example, if you start filtering for different plan names, it's going to affect this total count here. Like say if I filter for plan 3, that's not my total count anymore. That's not 1,000 customers. So what I could do is use something called a subquery to go and find me that total count of customers. So to do a subquery is basically queryception. It's a query within another query. For example, I've got this query down here about just select star for my subscriptions. What I'm going to do is going to go and put this query into this one. So if I go open bracket, go and copy and paste this query into this bracket, it will work. So this is a bit wordy. I'm going to give it an alias. So what you can see here is this query has executed as well, and it's come back here as a column. So that count of my 1,000 customers is here as another column in my data set here, alongside my select star. So I can use this. This will be very helpful in terms of finding out totals or percentage of customers based on this grand total here. So let's go and work out the rest of this. What my plan ID relates to my churns, and I've got to go and create that percentage of the count of the churn customers divided by the total count of customers. One of the things you've got to watch out for is having multiple selects in there. So say that this query ends and use a semicolon to indicate that. So then SQL will run this query, then move on to the next one. I've got here that plan ID 4 is a churn. So I'm going to put that into my query. As you can see, I'm filtering this data set for plan ID 4. My total count of customers has not changed because this query is executed separately to the rest of it. Okay, so let's go and find that distinct count of customers, which I can do here. There we go. So I've got my customer count, I've got my churn customers. I can now work out that percentage just by taking this subquery, dividing it. So once it's rounded to one decimal place, I think it wants it as a percentage. Take that query, times it by 100. Okay, that gets it into more percentage terms, but I've got all this extra going on here. What I can do is use a function called round. So there's question 4, using this subquery technique. Okay, question 5, getting a bit more tricky. How many customers churned after their initial free trial, and what percentage of this is rounded to the nearest whole number? Okay, so I'm going to start with subscriptions as before. Okay, so the data is organized in this way, so I can see this customer 1 started on this trial, then moved on to another plan in a sort of chronological order. What I really want to know is to determine which was the second plan they chose. So I can use a function here called row number to help me identify what was the second row for this customer. I go and add in this function called row number. So, okay, so your row number returns a unique number, but you can run this over certain parts of your data or partition it by certain parts. So I want this over. Okay, so what that will do will restart the row number when the customer ID changes. So, but I also want to order this. So I want to order it by that start date in ascending order. So I want that in ascending order. By default, it will be ascending, but you can also write ASC there to confirm it. So you can see that there. My customer ID is changed, but you can see that the first one starts with 1, then 2, then a new customer ID comes and it changes to 1. Now I just need to work out which one of these plan IDs is churn, what are the other ones. So I need to go and work out what the plan names are again. So I'm just going to do that join. Yeah, again, lots of comments coming back. I'm going to take my plan names, I'm going to take my customers, and I'm going to take those row numbers as well. Okay, cool. So all I need to do is go and find out when these row numbers, when 2 is churn. So there's a little bit of trouble with this. I can't just go where that row number thing equals 2. Trying to run this, it's not going to work. So how this happens is that this is a window function. This happens much later in the order operations than a where statement here. The query I've got here works. I just need to go and what I want to do is try and reference this query again. So I'm going to use a common table expression to store this query in memory and then reference this again later on. This again is a bit of queryception, a query within another query, but this is a super powerful technique for solving these kind of problems. So I've gone and rewritten this query with this extra bit of detail. So with CTE for common table expression in this case, and then put it in these brackets. Then you can just write other queries. So I can do select star from my common table expression, and we'll get the result of that query coming back. Similarly, I could just write other queries. So I could select star from plans, will come back. But in this case, I want to work with that common table expression, and I want to fix what we had before with this row number. Yes, so I want to find where my row number equals 2. Okay, it's that. So this gives me all those that were 2. I also want to know where that plan name is churn. Okay, so now this tells me all the customers that churned after the trial. So on the second plan is a churn. So I've got this here. All I need to do now is to try and how many customers, so I can go and count that, and then what percentage of that I can go and use that subquery we had from before for our total customers. Is that. Okay, so that's 92 customers churned after the trial. What is that in percentage terms to the whole number? Okay, and to get this all rounded up to the nearest whole number, I'm going to again turn this into the percentage they want and then use that round function again. Okay, so I can see here that 92 customers churned after the trial, and that's 9% of our total customers. Okay, question 6. So, what is the number and percentage of customer plans after the initial free trial? So, we can actually lean on a lot of what we did in question 5, finding that row number out. So, this is all looking at what do they do after the trial, that first step after the trial. So, we can bring in that common table expression that we started with before. Okay, so I got my common table expression from before. So what it does is take the customer ID, works out what that plan is, each part, and then gives a number, a row number to each step in that chain. So I know for this customer, the second step, they moved on to the pro monthly. Then after that, they churned later. So what we're going to be doing is working with just the row number twos. In this case, I'm working out the percentages for all of those. Okay, so I've got my plans, I've got my customers. I just need to go and work out a count of those. So let's do that. We'll also ask for the percentage of customer plans. So I can take this count and I can also do the subquery version of that as well. Okay, so I can see that and I can see those percentages there as well. I'm just going to go and round that. Okay, unexpected brackets. Yeah, these are ones that always watch out for. So thankfully with Snowflake, it's got this functionality where I can tap brackets and it'll show me where it is. Okay, so I've got those percentages coming out nicely. That's all good. Okay, that answers question 6. Okay, so what is the customer count again? Our percentage breakdown, all 5 plan values the end of the year 2020. For this, let's start off with subscriptions. So we have all these plans, we have all these different start dates as well. So the issue with this, if I go and put in, say, where my date function, in this case, whatever I've got, is equal to this date, I'm not going to get the correct value coming back. Yeah, I'm only going to get one customer coming back, and that's not right. That's not a breakdown of all 5 either. So this means that all these plans start on this date, but they haven't necessarily ended. So we need to try and take all the plans and work out which plan they were on at a particular date. So I could do my start date less than or equal to that, and I will get my results coming back. It's helpful, but again, I've got to be able to determine which plan someone's on. So in this case, so for customer 1, um, I want to make sure that we're picking this plan rather than the first plan. So what I can do again is use that row number to help me out, try and order these dates from latest to earliest. So again, I'm going to partition it by my customers. So my row number starts again after every customer ID, and then I'm going to sort it by my start date, descending this time. Okay, so you can see, yes, this one here. So customer 472. Yes, this is working correctly. So previously they had been on the trial, and then 1 week later they moved on to a plan of some kind. So here I've got all these different rows. So what I want to be picking is where row number equals 1. Again, I can't do that in my where clause because this is a window function. What I'm going to need to do is go and store this query in a common table expression. Then I can go and query what this row number is going to be. Got my row numbers. Now I can go and filter those. So where that picking that first row. So I've got that'll be the last plan they were on before this date. Okay, so this gives us an idea of all those different plans. Just got to go work out those plan names. Okay, and as before, you can just join to a common table expression as if it was a normal table. So here I've just joined as I would have done with subscriptions on the plan ID to get me those plan names coming through. Okay, so I've got plans, I've got the customers, so I can do a count. Okay, so I've got my 5 plans here, I've got my count of customers, I just need that percentage. Again, I'm going to go back to my previous common table expression, the CTE, work out the distinct count of those customers. Okay, so as before, so we've got that total count is going to be 1,000 again. So we use this as a divider for this customer count. Okay, so there I go. I've got my 5 plans, I've got my count, and I got my percentage of customers coming back. Okay, how many customers have upgraded to an annual plan in 2020? Let's start again with subscriptions and go from there. Okay, so I'm going to go and find out everything in 2020. So I'm going to use that date part again. Okay, so that's working. So that's filtered everything here for the year 2020. I need to work out what those plans are. So again, I can join these 2 plans. Okay, so this is where we're after all these customers that upgraded to say the Pro Annual. So you can sort of see here on Snowflake, it's quite helpful. It tells you what distinct values are in here. So you've got trial, got pro monthly, got monthly basic, pro annual. Here, just out of shot is churn. So yeah, there's only 5, and pro annual is the only annual one. Okay, that's returning all my customers related for pro annual. So I can just do a count here. Yeah, 195 customers upgraded. Okay, question 9. On average, how many days does it take for a customer to go from their trial to an annual plan? What we wanted to get to here is 3 columns. So our list of customers are then the start date, so when they started their trial, and then when they started with their annual plan. Then we can use that those 2 dates to work out the difference between the dates, and then an average of all of those customers. So I'm going to make 2 common table expressions, one for my trial, one for my annual plan, and then I'm going to join the 2 together. Yeah, just cheekily checking which plan ID it is. So it's going to be plan 3 for my annuals. Okay, so I've made my 2 common table expressions. I just need to put a query in here. So I can select staff from trial. Okay, so I can see all those customers there. I can then also do my annual. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tidy up my common table expressions. Otherwise, when I join these 2 together, I'm going to have a lot of renaming to do. So I'd rather rename it in these 2 queries. Okay, so here I've just gone and added in custom ID, which is going to be what I'm joining on, and then I've changed my start date to be specific to the type of data for the trial and for the annual plan here. So let's go and join these 2 together. Okay, so I've got the result coming back. I've got those 2 different start dates. I can tidy this up to remove this other custom ID here, and then we can. Okay, so that's a bit nicer to read. So now I want to go and work out the difference between these dates. So I'm going to use a function called dateDiff, and I'm going to work out the difference in days between these 2 dates. So dateDiff, it wants like a date period or a time period that you're going to calculate the difference between these 2 days there. Scroll over. So, okay, yeah, we can see here this working. So I'm getting some values back here. It's great. I was asked originally how, on average, how many days does it take. So I'm going to go and take this and take an average of this, and then that will be my answer. Okay, that looks good. The only thing I'm going to do is just round this up. Okay, for this question, what it wants us to do is take what we had earlier, that average value, but break it down into 30-day periods. There's no nice function, at least for creating different bin categories in SQL. So we're going to use a case statement, and we're going to do less than 30, less than 60, these types of functions to get these values out. So I want to take what I've done earlier in question 9, and take these two common table expressions, bring this all down here. So I've got this one, ambiguous column name, customer ID. This just basically means not sure which customer ID I want, the one from this table, the trial, or the annual one. So I just need to go and put a list in front of this, like this T dot here. Okay, so I've got that. I've got my date diff, and then we can also see all the other data there. Okay, so what we're effectively going to do is go and put in a case statement. So you can build something like case. Okay, so those first ones that were in a week, it's going to put it in that bin, that category there. I'm not going to need to go and do this for all of the different possibilities. It's going to be really long, complicated, but I've got a little trick here that could help you out. I've just gone into Excel, just open a blank sheet. Got my ranges coming through here, so 0 to 30, 31 to 60. Then I just go and increment through these by adding 30 each time. Actually, you can see this in the formula bar up here. I've got this statement here that I want to put in my bin. So when my date diff is less than 30, then call it 0 to 30. What I can do is build that as a formula in Excel. So here in this column, I've gone when date diff as text, and then inserted these values, these cells here to fill in these blanks. So I've got less than or equal to 30, then 0 to 30. Now drag this down here, and I can generate all that text for me quite quickly. I can then go and bring this now back into SQL. I can go and copy and paste these text values and go and drop that into my SQL query. Okay, I've had to zoom out a little bit, but you can see that coming through there. Run this. Okay, so I've got my bins created. I now just go and need to do that count of customers, see which bins they all fall into. Okay, so I'm going to comment out these two lines. Okay, can get rid of those comments. If I run this, I'm going to have an error because I'm not doing by this group by expression. This is quite a lengthy thing to go and put. You can do this. You can go group by this whole thing, but it's a lot, and it's a lot text. Makes your query quite long, so you can do group by one, which will take the first column here and group by that. Okay, so you can see now by my bins, I've got my different customers here. I'm going to give this name this. Okay, so we got one null value that I hadn't spotted. Let's go and figure out what that's all about. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to comment this out. I'm going to find out what that max value is, and then we can go and fix that. Okay, so it's close. One more. So 346. Just check that works. I've got that. I haven't got any nulls anymore, which is great. But there is my answer for question 10. Okay, question 11. So, how many customers downgraded from the monthly pro to the monthly basic plan in 2020? Okay, so what we can do is have a look at these tables. So I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to work out a common table expression for the pro monthly customers, then one for the monthly basic, and then join the two together. got that running, so let's do my pro monthly plan, my basic monthly plan for subscriptions. That works. So I want to know how many people were on this plan and then downgraded to this plan here, as I can join these two tables together and then compare the two start dates. And as before, I'm going to rename some of the columns. You can see here it looks like they upgraded from the basic to the pro monthly. So what I want to do is start filtering this for where the pro monthly is before basic, so where this date is less than the basic. Okay, and this is it. This is what you find is the answer, that actually there is no results here. We do also need to do one more filter just to complete this after the basic monthly plan in 2020. So yes, we'll just for completeness, we'll add this date part in here. So we know that actually there is no results for this quiz, so no one downgraded from the pro monthly to the basic in 2020. And that about wraps it up for this challenge. Check back in the next video where I'll go through section C and later challenges from Data with Danny. Bye.